I can tell you there is a tremendous amount of enthusiasm for voting in a group you're going to meet at the Canadian Embassy in Switzerland. So let's go back to the live shot of the group of students who are in a unique program called Class Afloat. Just some of them voted for the first time. There is their teacher, Brecken Williams, social studies teacher. Hi, Brecken. And the two students. Oh, there's everybody. Hi, everybody. Say hi to everybody at home in Canada. And the two students to whom I'm going to be speaking, Cameron Badke Ingerman. Hi, Cameron.
Hi, nice to meet you, Heather.
Nice to meet you too, Cameron. And Alexis Caffin on the right side there. Alexis, bienvenue, and nice to meet you as well. Okay, you two. I'm going to stay, Brecken, if you can just put it back on the students for the second, because you two just did something for the very first time. Cameron, tell me the story.
So we went to the Canadian Embassy in Switzerland and we voted for the first time for our federal elections.
So you exercised your right to vote as a Canadian for the very first time, as did you, Alexis. Tell me about the experience, how it was to do so.
Yeah, so I just turned 18 a few weeks ago, so it's very new for me. And we went to Bern at the Canadian Embassy and had the chance to vote for the federal election. It was great.
And what were you thinking about when you walked into that voting booth for the first time, Alexis?
Well, I had a lot of chance, that's for sure, because I was not expecting to have the chance to vote from Switzerland. So I'm very glad and proud to vote today.
And Cameron, tell me a little bit about your thoughts. You know, it's a very significant election. Look at the images of you guys putting in your ballots. It's a very significant election, and I'm wondering if you were thinking about that and about the whole importance of casting your ballot this time.
Yeah, when I went in, I knew that my choice would be important and my voice would be heard. So I thought about it. We did some research in the past few days, and today was the day that we got to choose our parties and it's out there.
Fantastic. Listen, we saw some images of you actually casting ballot. Maybe we can look at that again. And Brecken, I want to bring that in. So there were 12 students all told, right, who voted, and 4 teachers. And tell me a little bit about how this all came about, because this has to be one of the more unusual places for Canadians to vote. How did you bring this about, Brecken?
Well, that's right, Heather. I mean, for voting there.
Brecken, can you get a little closer to Cameron there? I'm just having a little trouble in the direction and just hearing your audio there. I want to make sure we hear the story. Okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
Better.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. It's for these students to be voting in their very first election from Switzerland in such an important election, no less. It's probably going to go down as one of the more memorable experiences for these guys. But obviously, it being a snap election, it was called while we were still on the boat. When we were Class Afloat, today we're a Class on Wheels. But Class Afloat, we were in Horta in the Azores, and we had a long crossing still of the Atlantic. So during that time, I started looking in. We have very, very limited connection while we're out at sea. We're looking into getting all these guys registered and signed up so that we could hopefully cast our ballot when we arrive in the Canadian Netherlands.
And then it happened. Can I just interrupt there, because I wanted to make people understand, and I hadn't done so yet. They're even where you are is because you're this very interesting program out of Nova Scotia called Class Afloat. Now, it's a pretty expansive program, but can you give us a brief synopsis about how it works and how you take your students out for extended times on the sea?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're a high school based out of Lunenburg, Nova Scotia, and we have students from around the world. But being that we're a Canadian school, a lot of Canadian students, which is amazing. And we start our journey in the North Sea in Germany, and we do a full circumnavigation of the North Atlantic while delivering high school courses. And then also we have a partnership with Acadia University
Isn't that fantastic? So you were mentioning, can I go back to your students again for a minute? Cameron, I heard from the teacher that you were off the Azores when you even heard there was an election. And he was also mentioning that it was pretty tough to get internet connectivity. So how did you even follow along? You have to get informed to make a vote when you're casting a ballot. How'd you do it?
Well, unfortunately, while we were at sea, there was no opportunity to access internet. So we really have just been doing research since we've reached land. So we've had about a week to do our own research and gather information about the parties. And that's why we've been rushing a little bit, but I believe we did a proper amount of research. And
had the chance to have a wonderful teacher, Mr. Brecken,
yes.
who did a small information about
I'm detecting he's pretty enthusiastic. So tell me, Alexei, for you, as you looked at the information, what were you considering? What were the issues that were important to you as you voted for the first time?
Yeah, obviously there's a lot of different issues that are very important. But for me, I think energy and environment was something because it's our future and we don't have that much time. But health and the cost of living is very important too.
For young people, for the future, for you. And what about you, Cameron, as you study things, what did you land on as the most important issue?
So for me, I believe that the housing crisis was also a very good issue to focus on, as well as my community being properly represented in these elections, as well as healthcare. Yeah.
Okay. So that's interesting. You know, what we're talking about at home is Donald Trump and all of his tariffs and all of the threats he's making about Canada. Was that anything that you thought about? Was that important to you as you voted?
Yeah, I have a lot of family in the United States, so for me it's a pretty close issue, and I have thought a lot about it, and it did influence my choice in these elections as well.
Okay. I'm not going to ask who you voted for. I just want to know what your thought process was. How about we keep it your first time voting? It's a secret ballot, and we'll keep it a secret. But come back to your teacher again for just a second, because I am interested in, Brecken, again, to listen to your students talk about, you know, the significance of voting, how seriously they took it. Why was it important for you so far away from home to make sure they had that lesson in democracy and in civics?
Well, Heather, you know, especially being that this year is such an important election, you mentioned all the things going on with our relationship south of the border. For a lot of us, you know, getting the opportunity to go around and see so much of the world, see different political systems and things that work, and see especially environmental impact in a lot of these places we've gone. It's really, really eye-opening. It's such a unique experience for a lot of these guys. And I think it's really important that we have these young people giving their say. They now have the opportunity for the first time to really have their voices heard at the federal level and at the point of decision making. And I think it's integral that we have that next generation and these young people getting to the ballot and making sure that their opinion, that they know that their opinion matters, and that the rest of Canada also knows that their opinion matters.
That's fantastic. Well, where the rest of Canada has seen how significantly they have taken that responsibility. Just quickly before I let you go, are you going to have connectivity wherever you are on election day so you can find out how this turns out?
You bet. We're going to be glued to it, I think, especially with all this extra
attention
all this extra action
and
we've got
interest.
there.
Okay,
So
CBC Gem. You can follow along with our coverage on CBC Gem easily wherever you are. Okay, show me again back to the two students, to Cameron and to Alexei. I want to just say thank you to you particularly. I don't know where you're voting in the next election, but it's definitely not going to be as exciting as your very first time voting there in Europe. That's fantastic. Thank you for talking to me. And one more time so I can see everybody and say hello to everybody so people at home can make sure everybody looks good. Okay, thank you so much. And thank you, Brecken, for coordinating that for us. What a pleasure. He's the social studies teacher at Class Afloat, and let's look one more time, or not all of them, they're not all old enough or eligible because they're not all Canadian, but that's the group, just voted at the Canadian Embassy in Bern, Switzerland. This is CBC Morning Live.